All right, Shalom. I want to start off as always by giving all praises and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashim Yahushai, Bahashim, Rachah HaKodash. Double honors unto the apostles, the elders, and the bishops of Great Millstone. I want to send much love unto the brothers out there doing his work in truth and sincerity. And I also want to send peace and blessings unto the believers of the hopeful elect. And in this lesson, I wanted to speak about a thought I had this morning when I woke up, and almost every day I wake up early in the morning, I have different thoughts in my head of the scriptures, of this truth, and just spiritual things, man. All right. Um, I mean, I have all kind of thoughts, but this morning, man, the thought of suffering for the Lord, and would you continue if you have to truly, suffer physical bodily harm for the Lord? Would you continue to preach and believe? And immediately, I thought about the apostles in the scriptures and just what they had to endure, man, and to continue to fight and push and grind and, write these epistles, man. You can only imagine the faith of these men, all right? I'm talking impeccable faith, like strong endurance, When they wrote down the word endure in their epistles, they really meant it. Suffering, trials of their faith, they really meant it, man. In these times, the apostle elders, brothers have been through things, but it hasn't been to the level that we read about yet, right? Brothers have been in prison, for the word, different things, but reading the scriptures and what the apostles had to endure and the Roman Empire, man, oh my goodness. And I was just thinking to myself this morning, going to work, throughout the day here and there, bro, would you continue to believe and preach if you had to suffer what these men suffered? And I'm like, bro, that'll be up to you. How about Shimi Hawashai, man? Because I can't even imagine, being whipped and beat and left for dead, for the word of the Lord. It's hard to imagine. But these men went through that. And through their trials and persecutions, we got these epistles, man. These gospels, the book of Acts it's amazing. But man, oh man, they suffered, bro. Like seriously, they suffered hell for this truth. So I want to get into the account here of the Apostle Paul. I also may grab Acts chapter 5, with the Apostle Peter and the Apostle John. But man, truly reading these scriptures, studying these scriptures, man, just grasping what these men been through, is like, bro, would you continue, if you had to suffer such things? And ultimately, it's up to you how about Shai on whether or not, we finish our course or fulfill our lives. But man, it is amazing. All right. So let's read this here, man. And I pray that it's edifying. Okay. So starting here, 2 Corinthians chapter 11, NLT Bible. And I want to start at verse 23 here. It says, are they servants of Mashiach? I know I sound like a madman, but I have served him far more. I have worked harder, been put in prison more often. So he was going to jail for the truth's sake, right? It says, been whipped times without number and faced death again and again. So just from these few words here, man, all right, you can just grasp that, okay, he been through a lot, okay? Preaching the gospel, traveling, right? Dealing with things with the church, dealing with false doctrines, but on top of being thrown in jail often, you know, as if he was a criminal. But at that time, the believers in the Roman empires, right, they were looked at as criminals, okay, as troublemakers. So they would throw them in jail. And Rome specialized putting people in jail. They specialized in torturing and beatings, okay? Rome specialized in unaliving people. They were known for that. Torture and unaliving. Rome at that time, there was perfectionists at unaliving people. So the world at that time, society at that time, it was brutal. Okay. So from these few words here, you can tell, all right, Paul been through it. Okay. All the apostles, but I'm just focusing in on what the apostle Paul wrote in his epistle, right? Facing death again and again. Oh my goodness. Verse 24 says, 5 different times the Jewish leaders gave me 39 lashes. Okay? 39 lashes 5 different times. I did the math. That's 195 lashes. Okay, Yak? 195 lashes. This is just what Jake did to him. Okay? This is what Jake did to him, right? The leaders of Israel, okay, in different places. I don't know if you ever been hit with an extension cord before, bro. I have, okay. I've been hit with the extension cord. It's not a pleasant feeling, okay. Especially when you fresh out the tub, all right. They used to do that. Wait till you take a bath, you get all, all cleaned up, and you got your BBDs on, or your boxes, and they come in there with that extension cord and give you a whipping, man. Not a pleasant feeling. But this man received that, okay? 195 lashes. You can imagine how his body looked, okay? You can imagine how his body looked, bro. How he felt. The blood, the oh my goodness. The hell, bro, of being whipped. And they didn't like him. Okay, they didn't like him, bro. He was looked at as a traitor, because he started off, diehard Pharisee, right? He was persecuting the church and, locking people up and, doing all kinds of things. But then he had his wake-up call. He started preaching Yahweh Shai. And so, they didn't show him no mercy. Okay? 195 lashes, man. Woo! Would you continue to teach? after that? Okay. Would you want to go out to the highways and byways again after a beating like this? 39 lashes. That's something to think about. Okay? That is something to think about, bro. It says 3 times I was beaten with rods. Okay? On 3 different occasions, nigga beating you. That's crazy, man. But he kept preaching. He kept going. And then, I try to put myself in his shoes, but it's impossible, brother. I mean, I don't know how I will respond or act in such way. I don't know. It takes some great faith, man. Some strong belief, some strong endurance to suffer such things and to continue to call on the name of the Lord, to continue to grind, man. Okay? Hey, man, this is a serious thing, bro. It says, once I was stoned. And you can read about that stoning in Acts of 14th chapter. Okay? And Paul was actually unalived. All right? He died. He had that out of body experience. He speaks about it in the 12th chapter of 2 Corinthians chapter 12, where he actually died and went to the spirit realm and what he saw. And pretty much he said he couldn't even put it into words what he saw, man. In paradise, okay? As Yahushua said, it's paradise. In the spirit realm, okay? But a stoning, brother, that is hell. And I remember a while back, when YouTube was a little more raw, they had a stoning on there. And also, I think it was on World Star Hip Hop, okay, of a stoning that took place inside of Africa, one of those countries in Africa. They stoned a sodomite, okay, brutal stone. It was brutal. All headshots, okay, all headshots, man. Brutal, bro. So you can only imagine, okay? You can only imagine, man. Imagine Stephen, okay, when he got his stoning, man. He died. Acts chapter 7. You can only imagine, bro, okay? But, the Lord put Paul's spirit back in his body because his course wasn't finished. But there was just a trial of his faith, man. Would you continue on, bro? Paul did. Okay, actually, if you read Acts chapter 14, if I'm not mistaken, this stoning took place in Lystra. Okay, and after he departed from Lystra, he came back to Lystra, and that's where it says in verse 22, where they conform the souls of the believers, right, to be strong. He came back as an example, bro. Like, look, y'all saw me get stoned and die, and yet I'm still preaching. Yet I'm still going. That is some great faith to have, and it's gonna take some faith like that for us, bro, to actually suffer harsh things and to continue to keep going. We don't know what our lots are, to suffer, or to witness, it's Hey, man, it's gonna take some faith, bro, to make it through these times. It says 3 times I was shipwrecked. Once I spent the whole night and a day adrift at sea. Man, shipwreck. Okay, terrifying, right? Terrifying, man. But imagine drifting on, on a log or something, whatever, something to keep you afloat for a whole night and day, bro. 24 hours, floating, not knowing what's under you, not knowing what kind of creature is in them waters, man. This man went through a lot, but yet he wrote this epistle. It says, I have traveled on many long journeys. I have faced danger from rivers and from robbers. I have faced danger from my own people, the Jews, as well as from the Gentiles. I have faced danger in the cities, in the deserts, and on the seas. I have faced danger from men who claim to be believers but are not. So he was suffering from all sides. It says, I have worked hard and long, enduring many sleepless nights. I have been hungry and thirsty, and have often gone without food. I have shivered in the cold, without enough clothing to keep me warm. Okay? This is a man of the Lord. Here you seeing how he had to abase, or how to be abased and, or how to abound. But clearly here, this is abasing. Being hungry, being thirsty, man. Shivering in the cold because you ain't got enough clothes. All right? A man of the Lord suffered these things. But he kept pushing through. It says, then besides all this, I have the daily burden of my concern for all the churches. Okay, so the Apostle Paul, all right, man, once he got converted, he really endured some things, man. He endured a lot. And I was just thinking about it this morning, like, bro, I can only imagine, okay, I can only imagine just suffering a little of what he'd been through, the beatings and the whippings, okay? It's hard to fathom. But guess what, man? We're going to have our time going to come, okay? Our time's going to come, and what it's going to be, we don't know. But a persecution of the church is going to come, okay? And some of us are going to have to endure harsh things. And this is why prayer is important. This is why faith is important, man, because if you have to go through such harsh things as this, man, you're going to have some strong belief out to sit there, and take that beating, man, and, shit, thrown in jail, all right? It's hard, man. Matter of fact, that happened to the Apostle Paul. You read Acts chapter 16. He was with a Sylvanus, I believe. And they got beat and thrown into jail, okay, after the beating. But then, the Lord had a miracle to happen. And then you had a Jake officer in there who believed and took them home. And then he cleansed their wounds for them, man. But they was sitting there in jail, bro, bleeding, leaking, no, pain medicine, no stitches, no doctors, in jail, man. So life was hard, bro. It was hard back then, okay? But I close out with that, bro, but I just had those things on my mind, just thinking about everything. Like, bro, it would take some strong faith, man, to go through stuff like this and just keep on going and, and believing, endurance, man. So, Lord willing, those edifying. I close out here. I'll praise you. How about Shema Shai, Bashim Chakadash. Shalom.